Hey there friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back to another video here on my YouTube channel. Today we're doing something special. It is a collaboration between Pearblossom Press and the Rabbit Hole Designs, and it's an Instagram hop. So I'll have my Instagram linked down below so you can hop along and check it out. But I had to make a video because that's just what I do. So here's what we're using today. I've got the Easy Light. That's nothing new if you've watched my videos before. I love those. We also have that cute little Pearblossom Press stamp set. And then we have a couple products from the Rabbit Hole Designs. We have this really darling tinting with Tailette, and there are the stamps and the dies that can go along with that. And then we also have these clear with sparkle enamel dots. So I love that they are sparkly and clear, so they go perfectly over the top of your lights. So let's go ahead and get started. To save a little time, I had already stamped out all of my images onto some Express It cardstock. It's just a really great blending, smooth cardstock for alcohol markers, and I am using my Olo markers to color these up. Now, I had chosen a color palette based off of a color cube picture. I didn't bring it out, but and show you in this video, but I mean, I've just been using that color cube like crazy. It honestly takes away all of the thought, really, of as far as like trying to coordinate stuff. That's why I just kind of will thumb through there, find one that I really like, and then go about my business, because then it takes away all the guesswork. And so yeah, that's what I did. My color palette ends up being a red, black, forest green, and like, you know, orange and yellow, I think. So I wish I had shown you the card because it actually was very pretty. But as you can see, I'm just blending those colors up that I have up on the screen and blending those onto that cardstock. As you can see, reds tend to bleed a little bit more for some reason, not sure why, but they do. So I don't always go to the very edge, and I think that kind of bit me in the rear here a couple of spots, but it's fine. It's not as noticeable unless you're just like looking straight at it, but I can see it because I did it. So we'll finish up coloring our tent here in just a little bit, and then we're going to move on to the campfire. I don't know if I mentioned, I stamped these images out using some Blackout ink by Ink on 3. And with the Blackout ink, it is one of those inks that you do need to either heat set or let sit and dry for a minute. Otherwise, you might have a problem with that ink bleeding a little bit when you go over the top of it with your alcohol markers. But heat setting it is fine. I also love Memento, but I can't seem to find that stuff anymore. So I mean, I'll still use it, and I do have a refill, but once that thing is gone, I guess it's gone. All right, and then I'm blending the fire. That was fun to do. And then we'll use some blacks on our little campfire pot, which is so cute. It makes me think of making like beans or something, or soup. And I do a lot of camping. Don't do tent camping anymore. I feel like my body's a little too old to sleep on the ground, but yeah, I do love to glamp, I guess is more like it. Not camping, but glamping. So now we're going to bring in those matching dies that you can get separately, and I'll just tack those down with a little bit of mint tape and then run that through my die cutting machine. But there are dies for all of the images in this set. Then we're going to bring in a piece of black cardstock that measures 4¼ by 5½ inches. Actually, it might be 4 inches by 5½ inches. And I'm going to splatter some silver paint at the very top to make it look like stars. We'll let that dry, and then we're going to pull in this piece of green cardstock. I don't remember the exact measurements of that. It might have been like 2½ inches by 4 inches. And I'm going to stamp the grass on that green to make it look a little bit more like grass. I do love that there are those little details in this stamp set, like the grass stamp. And I'm just stamping that with some VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink to make it stand out a little bit more. We'll go ahead and glue down our images. I'm going to glue the tent down, and then we'll glue our little campfire down. And then we can attach that to the front of our black cardstock, just using liquid glue to do so. And then we'll let that sort of dry. I need to bring in a sentiment, and I've got some white cardstock along with that VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. I decided on the sentiment, I'd be lost without you, simply because it's perfect. I cut that down with my guillotine trimmer, and then we're going to attach that to the front of the card. And then I need to poke my hole. So I've got my paper piercer, and I will poke it through where I want the light to shine, and then I will move that paper piercer around in a bunch of circles just to make that hole a little bit bigger. And then I'll randomly pick one up in the sky because we're going to put one of those clear enamel dots over the top of it. And then I do have a card base, but we're going to set that off to the side here in a second. After I take a pencil and mark those holes through the holes onto our base. And we do that so that we know where our lights are going to go. Before I assemble anything, I wanted to remember to stamp on the back. I've made that mistake before where I assemble everything and then it's just harder to stamp anything on the back of it. I mean, I guess now that I think about it, you could open it up and stamp. But I guess I was just like, oh, it's going to be hard to do once everything's assembled. Now that I think about it, it would have been fine. Either way, I did stamp my little light and then my personal stamp on the back. And then I'm going to bring in the easy light. So I'll bring in one of the batteries and then I'll pop off one of the mechanisms, which is super simple to do. And if you've never used these easy lights before, I'm telling you, they are what they say. They're very, very easy. So you just pop that battery in there with the plus side up, and then press the button and everything's working, so we're good to go. Now how I like to do these, a couple different ways, but this one that I'm showing you here is I'm going to use some Scotch tape because it's clear. You could use washi as well. And I'm going to tape those lights facing up on top of the little dot that I made. So we know that there is no mistake. It is going to shine through those holes that I made. And I'll do this part first simply because putting down the button and the mechanism and all that and the cords just aren't, I mean, they can just come next. It makes it so much easier to make sure that your lights are down first. I'll kind of wind everything up, test where that mechanism's going to go because I don't want it to go too far up because if it goes too far up, it'll be up where the tent is. So I just want to make sure I know what I'm doing. I also do, when I can do it, like to make sure that the battery is facing out. Now these batteries last for so long, but just in case the recipient ever needs to change the battery, it's easier to access that way. So I've put the mechanism down using a little bit of double-sided adhesive, and then we're just going to use a little bit more of our Scotch tape to just make sure those wires are stuck down. And obviously it's not pretty, but no one's going to see that, so I'm not worried about it. And I'm always checking to make sure everything is still working as I go along. Now that we know that that is the case, we're going to bring in our double-sided foam tape, and this is the world's best foam tape by Pearblossom Press. And it's amazing. Amazing for a few reasons. One, it's repositionable for about 30 minutes, which, hallelujah, how many of us have needed to do that? I mean, that's surprisingly, I didn't have to do that this time, but that is usually a regular occurrence for me, having to readjust. And sometimes, as you well know, if you have to try to readjust, you could just ruin your project, which is very frustrating. The other thing that makes these great is that release paper comes off so super easy. I love it. And this foam tape is not only good for light ups, but it's perfect for shakers. So keep that in mind. All right, we've put our panel down. Everything's good to go. And now I'm going to stamp the word push. Again, probably should have done that first, but we're going to go ahead and stamp that right onto our card. If it doesn't turn out, I can always stamp it on another piece of paper and stick that over the top. That never bothers me to have to do that. And then that's the front of our card. I want to add some embellishments. Again, those are the clear with sparkle enamel dots. And so I'm going to peel those off and we'll stick one of the big ones over the top. For some reason, I was having a hard time getting those to stick. I don't know if it was my fingers, because sometimes my fingers are a little clunky, but I decided to just use a little bit of liquid glue. I used little dots of it for the ones that I wasn't, worried about a light being behind, but the one where there was a light, I just circled where the hole was and then put my enamel dot down on top. And don't worry, this glue that I have dries clear. So just pick a glue if you have to do this that dries clear, because then you really, you're not going to be able to see it. It's going to be just fine. So I've grabbed several of those little enamel dots and we're putting those right over the glue. And then I remembered I did want to stamp on the inside. So I'm going to grab the little clothesline image. We'll ink that up with some fake plant and stamp that on the inside. And then that's going to finish off our card for today. Now, like I said, this is a part of an Instagram hop. I'll have the link to my Instagram down below so that you can hop around and check it all out. This was fun. So if you like this video, hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.